Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1793B, and today's date is February 17th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Deep State Outmaneuvered Again, Truth Overshadows Propaganda. Now, before we get started, did you ever want to keep track of your personal belongings? Well, now you can with Track It Home's T2 GPS tracker. It is also equipped with a listen-in feature that allows you to listen to activities going on around the device. This device is great to keep tabs on elderly loved ones that need special care, your rowdy pets that like to wander off, and also great to place inside luggage. It's a one-time purchase for this device, and once activated, you can keep track of wherever in the world it is located via Track It Home's mobile app. A free download. Visit trackithome.net and use promo code X22 for 20% off your purchase. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. The deep state, they have been outmaneuvered once again. Of course, if you listen to the mainstream media and everything else, you really don't see it because they don't reveal that part of what happened with the wall and everything else. We also see the truth is now coming out. And it's overshadowing the propaganda of the mainstream media. And we'll be talking about all of that in a little bit. But here's a story about Jussie Smollett, and I'm sure a lot of people heard of this already, that's been going on, where he claimed that two white Trump supporters violently attacked him at 2 a.m. in the streets of Chicago when he was walking home from a Subway with a sandwich in his hand. Smollett told the police the attackers were white, hurled homophobic and racial slurs at him while they beat him, poured bleach on him, then put a noose around his neck. Strangely, Mr. Smollett still had the rope around his neck when the police arrived to his apartment to take a report on the attack, which is kind of crazy. Why wouldn't you remove it? Instead, he left it there. Why did he leave it there? Because it looks a lot better when you're faking something. Now, what's very interesting, his whole entire story is falling apart. And it looks like it really is two Nigerian brothers that agreed to help him pull off this hoax. Now, the Chicago police, they've been investigating this, and Fox 32 reporter Rafer Weigel said that the Chicago police sources confirmed detectives were able to show that the Nigerian brothers, they were the persons of interest, and the police questioned them. They bought the rope found around Jussie Smollett's neck at an Ace Hardware store, and the whole thing was planned out. So it looks like this whole thing is turning out to be a hoax. It was staged. And we're seeing, according to reports, police released the Nigerian brothers based on new evidence in the case. And these two individuals, they also appeared as extras on the show Empire. This is the show that he is in. And it looks like they might have flipped on him. And now he's trying to figure a way out of this. And I believe that once the truth starts to really pour out, he's going to be in quite a bit of trouble. Now, the Chicago police, they're really investigating this. They're not part of the entire fake story. They're really looking into this, and they're finding out, it hasn't gone down the way he said it did. Now, what's very interesting is Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out the following, and you really have to think about this and think logically. He said, "Shocked. I really thought MAGA folks, who are all over downtown Chicago, were waiting with a rope, bottle of bleach to ambush a rich guy at 2 a.m. in -4 degrees because those are conditions where all people go out for Subway rather than order Seamless." Seems so real. And you can see at this point that everyone is looking at this going, this whole thing was a complete and utter setup. But the mainstream media, they went along with the story. They repeated it over and over and over to make everyone else believe it. Now it's falling apart without investigating any of it. They just went ahead and said, yes, we believe you, without really looking into proof. And of course, they're trying to turn everything around and say that MAGA supporters, they're dangerous. Well, now it's turning out that these people are liars. and they'll do anything to blame anything on Trump. We see Mueller is in panic because McCabe came out and he admitted that the deep state was trying to plan a coup d'etat against Trump. And of course, he's trying to walk this back and trying to figure out a way to get out of this. But the truth is already out there. So McCabe, James Comey, Rod Rosenstein, and the top officials of the Department of Justice were actively strategizing how to remove the duly elected president of the United States. In a third world banana republic, you know what this is called? A coup d'etat. And Q has been telling us that treason is punishable by death. And this is why the Senate was pushing a bill to reverse or make lynching illegal. Now, in response to this news, the Mueller team released a debunked smear on Roger Stone. They wanted to change the story. They wanted to change the narrative. And the Mueller deep state hacks released documents on Friday they claim that show that Roger Stone was communicating with WikiLeaks. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, they denied all collusion with Roger Stone, Donald Trump Jr., Jerome Corsi, Michael Flynn, and any other Trump official during the 2016 election. And late last night, Roger Stone responded saying the Friday report was a recycled report on an innocuous Twitter direct message that were already fully disclosed to House investigators. And then the judge came in and put a gag order on Roger Stone. So they are panicking right now. Schiff is panicking. He's signaling right now that the Mueller findings won't be enough. Now, we know that NBC came out and they were projecting into the future saying that the Mueller report is going to show nothing. Schiff is projecting out there saying that the Mueller report is going to show nothing and that they're going to have to take on the investigations themselves. Of course, we know why they're doing it. It's their insurance policy. They know there's nothing here. What they're really afraid of is that the truth is going to take them down. And the truth is coming out, and it's getting closer and closer to home. And Schiff came out and said, we're going to have to do our own investigation. And we are. We'll certainly be very interested to learn what Bob Mueller finds. We may have to fight to get that information. And he's blaming this on the new Attorney General because they feel that they're not going to give them all the information. Well, no. The report's going to be made transparent to show that nothing ever happened. He's trying to set up a scenario of where they're going to say, oh, we didn't get everything, that's why we have to have this investigation. They're trying to figure a way out of all this to protect themselves. Remember, Schiff met with Glenn Simpson, and everyone's starting to talk about this. What was he doing there? What did they talk about? Actually, Maria Bartiromo tweeted out the following, happening now. We now find that Adam Schiff met was Glenn Simpson last year. Why did he fight telling us who paid for the dossier? He should hold himself to the same standard. He should recuse himself from Russia probe, just like everyone else that had to recuse himself. He's involved. He should be recusing himself, but he won't because he needs to protect himself. Now, we know that Nikki Haley is retiring as UN ambassador. She's a deep state operative. And Trump decided to pick Heather Nauert as the new UN ambassador. But it looks like Heather is having second thoughts right now. At least that's what they're claiming. Saying that the past 2 months have been grueling for my family, and therefore it is in the best interest of my family that I withdraw my name from consideration. Now, I wonder if something's happening where the deep state is putting pressure on her and she's nervous and afraid and decided that, this is not for me. But the State Department confirmed another nominee would be announced very, very soon. So we'll see how that all plays out. Out in France and many other parts in Europe, we see the yellow vests. They are continually protesting right now. This is the 14th week, and this is happening all over the place. Now, Macron's government, they have arrested 8,400 yellow vest protesters. You think they're trying to quiet the situation down? But there's always a problem with this. The more you arrest, the more people that come out. And you can't win against this. But this is what the deep state likes to do. They like to silence everyone. Now, out in Haiti, We see Haiti continues to be gripped by civil unrest and mass protests demanding that the president step down over charges of corruption and rampant inflation under his watch. Now, I'm wondering if this has to do with Q and team, with their investigations, with what has been going on in Haiti with the Clintons. And if we go back in time to post 1832, this is August 10th, 2018, remember, Q has been posting about Haiti, about Hillary Clinton, even showing videos of Donald Trump during a dinner speaking about Hillary and Haiti and the children. And you can see Hillary's face. She's not too thrilled with what Trump is saying. But in this post, Q says the following: Reed drops R.E. Haiti. At some point, it will not be safe for them to walk down the street. Pure evil. The world is watching. And if we move to post 1884, this is where Q, back in August 15th, gave us a list of all the different countries where access has been closed. And one of them has been Haiti. So it looks like something might be happening in Haiti right now, and this might have to do with Clinton, with the operation down there, with the investigations, because we can see that everything is starting to ramp up right now. We see out in Afghanistan, we see about 1,000 troops from Afghanistan. They're going to be pulled out of Afghanistan. Now, they're saying that this is an efficiency effort. They're saying this is part of removing some of the troops, not a drawdown, but we're going to be starting to remove some of these troops. And I think this is wordplay. So the deep state and all these individuals, look at this and say, okay, what's going on here? But I think what they're doing is they're actually starting to pull troops out of Afghanistan. And we're going to see this pick up over time. We see Syria is accusing U.S. forces where they brought in helicopters and they picked up these large boxes, and they're saying that they are full with gold. This is all the gold that the Islamic State terrorists stole from different areas within Syria. Now, is this the deep state taking the gold? It might be, because remember, the Islamic State inside of Syria, they were living off of the stolen oil. They were at some points where they said they're going to go to a gold standard in Syria. They were collecting old artifacts, art, gold. They were just stealing from the country. This was the deep state, and I wouldn't be surprised, because I remember in Ukraine, once the coup d'etat happened in there and they had regime change, all of a sudden these planes that were, dark in color flew in the middle of the night and took gigantic boxes, and many people suspected that it was Ukraine's gold. And then later on, we came to find out that they were missing gold. I think the same thing is happening in Syria, where the deep state is capturing their gold and they're stealing it from the country. Now, this might be going off to Israel. This might be going off to the coalition forces. But again, they're taking the spoils from Syria. Remember, the deep state, they always try to push their goal. And they never quit. They just regroup and try again. And this is why Trump is going after the source of the problem. You need to go after the source, because you got to make sure that they have no funds to operate. Without funds, they can't do anything. And think about how he's doing this. In Afghanistan, shutting down the poppy fields. In Syria, oil convoys wiped out. Using the petrodollar in all these Middle Eastern countries, that's coming to an end. Soon he'll have Venezuela taken care of. The border in the United States, with all the human trafficking, the drugs, and everything else coming over the border, that's going to be cut off. Piece by piece, he's cutting off the funding of the deep state. What's next? Well, the main source, the central bank. But you have to understand, he needs to do one piece at a time, and he needs to make sure that these are all in place before he goes after the big kahuna, which is the central bank. Let's get into some of Q's posts. This is post 2737. Q put up a link to Fox News, and this article says, DHS official board security bill does not contain amnesty poison pills. And if you read down part of this article, it says, major alleged poison pill that may be misunderstood is a clause requiring the federal government to confer and seek to reach mutual agreements with local governments before building any wall. The Center for Immigration Studies, which favors lower immigration levels, tweeted that the spending bill would give local governments in the Rio Grande, all of which are heavily Democratic, the ability to veto the fence. If those blue municipalities don't agree with DHS, the fence can't get built. But the DHS official told Fox News on Background that the exact language in the budget, confer and seek to reach mutual agreement, nowhere requires a federal government to actually reach an agreement before building fences. Rather, it just requires DHS to consult with local governments, something DHS already generally does today. So there's no problem with this. And then Q says, be careful who you follow. Q, because many people are out there, they're giving out wrong information, trying to use fear to scare people that Trump was taken. But we're going to show how actually Trump outmaneuvered the deep state in all of this. Post 2738, Q put up a picture of U.S. Army Corps of Engineer, Red Castle, Green Castle. Under this gave us a Twitter link to Scavino45, and the tweet says the following. After declaring a national emergency, President @Real Donald Trump is briefed by the U.S. Army Chief of Engineers, Commanding General Todd D. Semonite, on the status to date of the border wall and all future construction to begin along the southern border. The pic shows the Army Chief of Engineers working with Trump. Q says the following. Army Chief of Engineers, all future construction. How long have Annans known? Fake news attacking us daily. These are predictable, stupid, nothing to see here. Q. And Annans knew this all along, all the way going, I think it's all the way back to March when we first found out, when this was first deciphered. Post 2739, Q put up a Twitter link to Carpe Duncum, and this is a video showing how Trump battles the fake news media. Now, the original video was taken down. Trump retweeted Carpe Duncum's video, and there were complaints because REM's song Everybody Hurts was used in the video, and they said it was copyright violation. So Carpe Duncum created this new one, and the other video was completely taken down by Twitter. And Q went on to say, on the daily Q, where Trump is continually winning against the fake news. Post 2740, and Annan put up a tweet by Devin Nunes, and it says, didn't the Russians meet with Dem Clinton operatives before and after the meeting? And below this it says, new evidence refutes Adam Schiff's theory about Trump's Tower meeting. Don Jr.'s mysterious phone calls were not with his father, and we know this was with a race car driver and another friend. So this brings us to post 2043, where Q is talking about Loretta Lynch and what she did to help create a Russian collusion story. And Q says the following, you have more than you know. Why did Loretta Lynch, Attorney General of the United States, and that's in all caps, bold, in brackets, kill brackets, grant special entry to Natalia Veselnitskaya, Don Jr. set-up meeting? So let's go back in time. This is from The Hill. Department of Justice let Russian lawyer into U.S. before she met with Trump team. The Russian lawyer who penetrated Donald Trump's inner circle was initially cleared into the United States by the Justice Department under extraordinary circumstances. This revelation means it was the Obama Justice Department that enabled the newest and most intriguing figure in the Russian Trump investigation to enter the country without a visa called immigration parole. Why was Natalia barred from entering prior to? This is what Q is asking. Well, Natalia applied for a visa to represent her client back in October 2015. This is way before the presidential election and everything else. Her client was Denis Katsiev, the owner of Prevezon Holdings. This company was being sued by the U.S. government. The visa was denied for Natalia. However, she wasn't admitted into the U.S. until June 2016 because of her role in the Prevezon case. In fact, when U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara of Manhattan specifically refused Natalia's request that the Justice Department authorize her trip via a mechanism known as immigration parole, which allows the Attorney General to temporarily suspend immigration requirements on a case-by-case basis. So this Russian lawyer, Natalia, she was denied a visa 2 or 3 times. Now, this is coming out of Reuters. Bahara's office has recommended immigration paroles for Natalia on 3 occasions when her client, Katsiev, was being deposed in the U.S. in the Prevezon case. But in March 2016, Bahara's office said no in a letter to Prevezon's U.S. lawyers. Prosecutors said such paroles aren't appropriate for foreign lawyers asking to help U.S. counsel prepare for appellate arguments or to attend appellate proceedings, since neither Katsiev nor Natalia are required to appear as witnesses in person at this stage of proceedings. We do not believe that the immigration parole is appropriate because she didn't have to appear as a witness, so there was no reason to let her into the country. She was not needed. So after she was denied many times, and she wasn't required to appear as a witness in person, why did Loretta Lynch allow her in? Q says if you have no real evidence of Russian collusion, you must attempt to manufacture it. So Lynch allowed Natalia to enter the U.S. The stage was set, the meeting place, time was coordinated, the tower was bugged, all to set up Don Jr. at Trump Tower meeting. As Q says, if there's no Russian collusion, what do you need to do? You need to manufacture one. The Pfizer warrants were all used to spy on the Trump administration or those associated with the Trump organization and not foreign individuals. 5 Eyes were also used during this. So all these Pfizer warrants and everything that Obama and his administration set up, it wasn't to spy on the foreign individuals. They used them as the excuse to spy on the Trump organization. And this is why they unmasked all these individuals, to catch these individuals in some type of Russian collusion scheme, to catch them in lies, and to set them up. Let's move on to post 2741. Q puts up a Twitter link, 333RD Revolution, and the tweet says the following: another one in Jersey City, New Jersey. Now, this is a pic of a bus stop with "Where we go one, we go all." And this message is sprayed on the bus stop. And Q says, bigger than you realize. Well, what he means by this, or what Q means by this, is people are waking up to the truth every day. Q says the purpose of fake news attacks, slow growth, reach. Well, the purpose of the fake news is to stop the spread of the truth, to stop this message. Let's move on to post 2742. Q gives us a Twitter link to Sensei Common, and this tweet is the letter Q sprayed on the doors of the Scottish Parliament. And Q says similar to below. So Q gives us a link to a YouTube. This is the movie V for Vendetta. Q is letting us know this is the same type of movement. The media puts out propaganda with the help of the clowns. V is spreading the truth for all to see. And it's the same thing that Q is doing, referring us back to V for Vendetta or The Matrix. The same thing. Post 2743 gave us a link to a Breitbart article, and it says, Nolte, networks refuse to cover Senate's No Russia Collusion report. Q says, how do you know when the media is biased and pushing a knowingly false, fake narrative? Disinformation campaign designed to buy them more time by attempting to con enough people in order to remove the duly elected POTUS in order to save themselves from prosecution. Enemy of the people. Now, of course, the mainstream media is not going to come out and broadcast that the Senate found absolutely nothing. Yes, they did make mention of it, but they refused to cover the entire report. Instead, they're focusing on Adam Schiff. Now, when Mueller comes out with his report, they're going to push the focus away completely because they don't want anyone to know that there's been no Russian collusion whatsoever. Their entire story falls apart then. Post 2744. Q puts up, but the Lord is faithful and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. And what Q is doing, he's quoting different parts of the Bible. Post 2745. Q gave us a link to Fox News, and this is former top FBI lawyer. 2 Trump cabinet officials were ready to support the 25th Amendment effort. Information waterfall, buckle up, traitors. Traitors is in brackets, all bold Q. And we went over this a little while ago. There was a coordinated effort for a coup d'etat. Rod Rosenstein involved, Comey's involved, McCabe's involved. All the same players are all involved, and this is treason. They are traitors. The Senate is pushing the bill to make lynching illegal. This is all being done on purpose because they know what's coming. What do you do with traitors? Well, it's the death penalty. And from this information that's coming out that they were planning a coup d'etat, well, this is treason. They're traitors. And you can see where this is going. Post 2746. Q responds to the Annan who wrote the following. Former top FBI lawyer, 2 Trump cabinet officials were ready to support the 25th Amendment effort. Former top FBI lawyer James Baker, in closed-door testimony to Congress, detailed alleged discussion among senior officials at the Justice Department about invoking the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office, claiming he was told Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein said 2 Trump cabinet officials were ready to support such an effort. During his testimony, Baker acknowledged he was not directly involved in the May 2017 discussions, but testified over a 2-day period in October that McCabe and Page came to him contemporaneously after meeting with Rosenstein for input in the days after Comey was fired by the president. Q continued. They were removed. When was Page removed from the investigation? What month? July 2017, early. When was Scaramucci hired? July 2017, late. R.E., the Scaramucci model, 5x5. Those who left majority did not have a choice. All remained pro-MAGA and loyal to POTUS. Why are we attacked by pro-MAGA? Because they're not really pro-MAGA. They're put in there by the deep state. The establishment runs deep, and Q just confirmed that. Logical thinking, Q. Now, they were planning on having Carter Page prosecuted by Mueller, but investigators were looking at the FISA applications. If Mueller proceeded, it would have brought the deep state methods into the public spotlight. And this is why they really didn't move ahead with all of this, and they started to back off because they started to realize what was happening here. Post 2747, Q gave us whitehouse.gov, and this is the briefing statement by President Trump on border security victory. And it reads as follows. I will never waver from my sacred duty to defend this nation and its people. We will get the job done. President Trump. Securing our border, President Donald Trump is following through on his promise to secure the border with legislation and executive action. The funding bill contains robust resources and additional provisions to secure the border and strengthen immigration enforcement. The bill provides $1.375 billion for approximately 55 miles of border barrier in highly dangerous drug smuggling areas in the Rio Grande Valley, where it is desperately needed. $415 million will go toward addressing the humanitarian crisis at the border by providing medical care, transportation, processing centers, and consumables. President Trump successfully rejected efforts by some to undercut immigration and customs enforcement's ability to uphold our laws and detain illegal aliens, including criminals. ICE funding supports nearly 5,000 additional beds to detain illegal aliens and keep criminals off our streets. Customs and Border Protection will receive funding for 600 additional officers. This bill will help keep deadly drugs out of our communities by increasing drug detection at ports of entry, including opioid detection staffing, labs, and equipment. Including funding in Homeland Security appropriations, the administration has so far identified up to $8.1 billion that will be available to build the border wall once a national emergency is declared, and additional funds have been reprogrammed, including about $601 million from the Treasury Forfeiture Fund, up to $2.5 billion under the Department of Defense funds transferred for support for counter-drug activities, up to $3.6 billion reallocated from Department of Defense military construction projects under the President's declaration of national emergency. Addressing the crisis at hand, President Trump is taking the necessary steps to address the crisis at our southern border and stop crime and drugs from flooding into our nation. Cartels, traffickers, and gangs like the MS-13 gang have taken advantage of our weak borders for their own gain. Immigration officers have made 266,000 arrests of criminal aliens in the last 2 fiscal years. This includes aliens charged or convictions of approximately 100,000 assaults, 30,000 sex crimes, and 4,000 killings. Tons of deadly drugs have flooded across the border and into our communities, taking countless American lives. Then Q gave us another link to the statement by the President. And it says, "Today I have signed into law H.J. Resolution 31, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2019, which authorizes appropriations to fund the operation of number agencies in the federal government through September 30th, 2019. Now, at the end of all this, we're going to sum all this up. So let me just continue with the post right here. Post 2748, and Annan responds to Q's post 2746 with the following. The Scaramucci play. Temp hire to remove embedded untrustworthy staffers. Spicer, Priebus. Temps can be very dangerous to those who are targeted. Think Whitaker. And it's in brackets, bold, all caps, next week. Q responds to the Annan with post 2468, the Scaramucci play, and repeats what the Annan said, confirming that, yes, he is correct. 2749, and Annan put up part of the briefing statement by the President. Here is the section that the Annan put up. Numerous provisions purport, in certain circumstances, to condition the authority of officers to spend or reallocate funds on the approval of congressional committees. Division B, Sections 702, 706, 716A, B, Division E, Section 403, 409, Division G, Section 188, 405, 406. These are impermissible forms of congressional aggrandizement in the execution of the laws other than by the enactment of statutes. My administration will make appropriate efforts to notify the relevant committees before taking the specified actions and will accord the recommendations of such committees all appropriate and serious consideration, but it will not treat spending decisions as dependent on the approval of congressional committees. So under this, it says, see all restrictions are off. Now, this is the interesting part where Trump says the following, but will not treat spending decisions as dependent on the approval of congressional committees. And under this, it says, trust your President, Q. Remember, all of this has been planned for. Let's move on to post 2750. And Annan says, Trump's statement is brilliant. Deep State loaded the bill with multiple facets to block, and his White House statement just released systematically points out section by section where they tried to block him, and he countered that by citing presidential and constitutional authority. Shall we play a game where we go one, we go all? Now, the Deep State, they loaded the bill with landmines. And we heard Trump say, I'm going to look through here for all the landmines. Once they found all the landmines, he created these executive orders which countered each one. So what they tried to do did not work. Post 2751. And Annan said, I trust POTUS and I trust the Lord. The Lord is leading POTUS. Of that I am certain. Q says the Lord is leading us all. Good versus evil. Post 2752. And Annan responded to Q when Q posted the two links of the President's statement and border security victory. These phrases below imply that Trump plans on following his constitutional rights no matter what he signed in the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2019. The act, which authorizes appropriations to fund the operation of a number of agencies in the federal government through September 30th, 2019. My administration will treat each of these provisions consistent with the President's constitutional authorities with respect to foreign relations, and my administration will continue the practice of treating provisions like these as advisory and non-binding, and my administration will make appropriate efforts to notify the relevant committees before taking the specified actions and will accord the recommendations of such committees all appropriate and serious consideration, but it will not treat spending decisions as dependent on the approval of congressional committees. Q says, you are the news now. So let's talk about the border and Trump and what all this means. Q and the other patriots, they were able to put one over on the deep state. Hashtag winning bigly. First, let's look at the Bradford file and the tweet. Carter, the border is a crisis. Reagan, the border is a crisis. Bush 41, the border is a crisis. Clinton, the border is a crisis. Bush 43, the border is a crisis. Obama, the border is a crisis. Trump, I declared a national emergency. Democrats, what crisis? So almost every president before Trump has been saying the border is a crisis. And finally, Trump said, I declare a national emergency. And then all of a sudden they say, what crisis? This is ridiculous. So during Trump's press conference, Acosta from CNN tries to use stats to show why the border crisis is not an emergency. Trump did not fall for it. He shut down Acosta right away, said he was fake news. But CNN, they continued with their agenda using stats while talking about the border security. And they brought on a former Border Patrol chief. And they were hoping by using their statistical information, because, CNN is fact-driven, they would trap this individual with the statistics. And guess what happened? The opposite happened. Take a listen.
Border Patrol Chief. Mark, thanks for being with us. First, your reaction to the president declaring national emergency to fund his border wall.
Look, from my experience as a law enforcement and border security aspect, not from some political ideology, right or left, in my opinion, the president had no choice. Congress has failed. They've continued to fail. This bill was a failure with respect to doing what the men and women, the experts have asked, the tools and resources they need. This bill was a failure. They left the president no choice but to do what he's doing, and I support. And real quick, your last guest, with all due respect, he can't speak for the men and women of the United States Border Patrol. I can. I was there, and I feel very comfortable speaking for them. Right now, they are applauding this president. He is listening to them, especially with the facts on the drugs coming through the ports. The president is right.
I know you support the wall, so let's just take piece by piece here. Is this a national emergency when you consider southern border arrests have dropped dramatically over the past couple of decades? They're going down, not up.
Yeah, so that's a false narrative. So first of all, let's take that apart real quickly. One of the reasons that they've gone down is because we've applied a multi-layer strategy of barriers, technology, and personnel, which is what the experts are still wanting, which Congress didn't do. The other element of that is
But Congress did just do that in the border security passage, the spending bill the president just signed. In fact, it was $23 billion total when it comes to border security, with the barrier piece being $1.375 billion of that.
Exactly, and that's the key part. They didn't give them resources. They're not giving them enough technology in between the ports, and they're not giving the physical barrier on it, which is the key element of that multi-layer strategy, which in part in the past has reduced the illegal immigration that you talk about and want to twist around. In Yuma, Arizona, 23 miles of physical barrier, technology, and personnel, the illegal immigration went from 150,000 to 15,000. It works. We need more of it, and the experts will tell you they need more of it, and Congress is not listening to them.
But a wall still won't keep people from crossing. Just this week, you mentioned Arizona. CBP put out this video showing migrants using a ladder, climbing over the wall that's already at the border in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. Another false narrative. So look at that wall. That wall is an ineffective wall. That wall needs to be replaced and upgraded. And then another part is no one has ever said that a wall is 100% effective, Anna. That's the false narrative.
Yeah.
Sure, it's going to be defeated, but it's still 80 to 90% effective. It still works. When was the last time a 90% effective strategy, all of a sudden you say it doesn't work? Of course they're going to get over it. Of course they're going to get under it. But overall, it's effective.
I hear what you're saying, but is it an emergency? On the issue of the drugs, we're about the facts first here at CNN. The president said it's wrong, that it's a lie, that most drugs come through ports of entry. Sure, we do know there are drugs that are coming as well across the border in between ports of entry, but it's DEA, it's Customs and Border Statistics that tell us otherwise. Do you have a problem with the president misleading the public on this? Again, maybe he's twisting the facts here. There is some we know of drugs coming across in between ports of entry, but that's not the majority.
So that's false. So actually, your previous guest is twisting it. So let's break that down a little bit. So the statistics, we're talking about those drugs that are actually interdicted. And if you include, so if you look at meth, heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl, the majority comes, this interdicted comes into ports. But if you throw in marijuana, which a lot of people don't want to talk about, pound for pound, the overall drugs, more are actually seized in between the ports. The other element that no everyone ever talks to, especially on this show, is the fact that the border is 60% porous, meaning there's not enough technology, personnel, or infrastructure to adequately safeguard the border. 60% on it. We don't know what's getting through. So the experts will tell you, for every pound of narcotics that's seized in between the ports, there are countless that's getting through that we'll never know. So the president is right on that.
I really appreciate your perspective. Thank you, Mark Morgan, for joining us.
As you can see, these people on the front lines, they know exactly what's going on, and they blew all these statistics completely out of the water to show that that was a fake agenda. Mark Meadows says the following, that renegade GOP lawmakers will fail to derail Trump's border emergency. He tweeted the following, given Congress will try to block this executive action, I am seeing speculation Congress could override a POTUS veto with GOP votes. They will not. The votes will not be there. There is a broad GOP plus American support for POTUS taking legal constitutional action to protect families. So you can see, not just on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side, there are those that are part of the deep state that don't want this to move forward. They're trying to stop Trump at every turn. It's the same thing that we see out in Syria and all the other places where they don't want him to bring troops home. They're fighting against all of this. Why? Because they're involved with the deep state. And we can see that Trump went ahead and he decided to use Obama's previous national emergency on Mexican drug cartels to get some funding for the border walls. So back in 2011, Obama issued an executive order blocking property of transnational criminal organizations. Obama cited his authority as granted through the Constitution to invoke the International Emergency Economic Powers Act 50 U.S.C. 1701 and the National Emergency Act of 50 U.S.C. 1601. The latter is the same legislation that Trump is citing to get funding for the wall to achieve his immigration reform goals. That executive order targeted a number of criminal organizations, including the Mexican Los Zetas cartel and an ally of the MS-13 gang Trump has regularly called out as a danger to Americans. So he's using Obama's executive order in all of this, and he did this on purpose. So Trump knew there were landmines in this spending bill, and they prepared for it. So the president, when he announced his national emergency and also put together the border security and the statement by the president and other things, he basically did the following. Those passages in the spending bill he signed that restrict his authority are null and void because they interfere with executive functions under the Constitution. So everything that they tried to do, he completely countered them. So the White House did not make one executive action, as we can see. In reality, they made three, only one of which involved an emergency declaration. First, the White House announced they would be funding $601 million in wall construction from the Treasury Forfeiture Fund, relying on 31 U.S.C. 9705. This does not require an emergency declaration, so we can use the $601 million. Second, the White House announced they would be funding $2.5 billion in wall construction under 10 U.S.C. 284. This does not require an emergency declaration. So now Trump has $2.5 billion plus the $601 million, and it has nothing to do with the emergency declaration. Finally, the White House announced they would be funding the $3.6 billion under 10 U.S.C. Section 2808. This money does require an emergency declaration. So according to the White House, this money will be spent sequentially. So the Section 9705 money will be spent first, then the 284, then the 2808 money. So depending on how fast they can begin construction, they will have to spend about $5 billion, including the $1.3 billion in fencing appropriation, before any of the emergency money is ever tapped. So while the deep state is distracted with their lawsuits with national emergency, and we know that Trump came out and said, oh, they're going to sue him, and there's like 7 different lawsuits going on right now, the Trump team will begin building the wall using all the other funds, while the mainstream media, the deep state, are very, very busy fighting him in court for this money that they're not even going to use yet, because they're going to go through all the other money first. So guess what's going to happen? The wall will be built, and by the time they need that other money, everything will be settled out, and Trump will get his way, because he's abiding by the Constitution, and they don't have a leg to stand on, and the wall will be almost done. Think about what's happening here. He outmaneuvered the deep state. He has all this money without touching the national emergency money. They put one over on the deep state. Post 2753. Q gave us a link to T-Boots, and take a listen to what this individual has to say, because I think it says absolutely everything we need to know.
Really? Man, I don't understand it. Obviously, it's not Republicans out there causing all this destruction. You know, burning up the streets, blocking roads, and things like that. It's the liberals, you know? These are the same people that are against the Second Amendment because they want to decrease violence and nobody should have guns. The same people that are anti-abortion because they want to save lives. And you're causing all this destruction just because your candidate lost. See, that's the problem with this country. You can't always get your way. Everybody wants to be politically correct. Quit being crybabies. Ain't nothing free. You ain't no slave. You don't get your way. So you act like a 2-year-old, burning up people's stuff, destroying the streets, making people late for work. Man, I'm glad I don't live in New York City or Washington or Oregon, because I would run one of y'all asses over. You are outrageous, man. You are the exact reason why Donald Trump won the election. Because we're tired of you crybabies. You didn't earn anything. None of you put on a uniform. But you're quick to disrespect the flag. Not want to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Not want to recognize the Bible. But you want everything. You didn't fight for anything, but you want it. It doesn't work like that. You know, I think it should be all these people out there that want to protest and burn stuff up. I don't think the cops should protect them. Obviously, when people look at the flag and say, that's not my flag, Donald Trump is not my president, then you know what? Then obviously, this ain't your damn country. Leave. Find another flag. Find another president. Go to Mexico. I really don't care. But quit tearing up stuff. Quit causing destruction and preaching peace, because you're contradicting yourself. I'm Deion Alexander, American First.
And everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.